Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I brought my new friend to the studio. He is Dike Chukwumerije. Dike, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome. Many of you have been seeing Dike on TV, TED Talk, on YouTube. Dike, or you have been reading his books or his poems. Dike is a lawyer. And after reading law, he has pursued his passion, which is language, the spoken word, the use of the spoken word, performing the spoken word. So Dike writes poems and performs the poems on stage. He writes prose and performs them on stage. Dike, congratulations. I mean, it's fantastic work you are doing.
Thank you very much.
And Dike is a mentor for a lot of young people today in an age where very little respect is given to language, where people speak anyhow, where people are text SMS language is what is dominant. But Dike has taken time to construct his sentences, to construct his verses, to construct his language and perform them. It reminds me of the Yoruba Ewi, the traditional African poetry, which in many linguistic areas, they were performed.
Yeah, repositories of history.
They were repository culture and so on and so forth. And I recall that, okay, today we have Nollywood and we have all kinds of Hollywood, Nollywood, and people just sit down to. But these things were performed live. Yeah. Shakespeare, people went to watch in the theaters. Yeah. And there is something about sitting down with other people in the theater for a performance.
Yeah.
More glorious, more engaging, more powerful than just watching. You know. So I am grateful to God that there are people like you who are reviving the interest in language. It's one of the areas that I have lamented. I tell people that I did my doctoral dissertation on one word, or zovehe, one word. That is the power of words. And you have shown that. But, I mean, we are going to have a session to discuss
talk about language.
Yes. But today, Dike, we are in trouble. I am calling you to the studio for us to discuss Nigeria, de-escalating the rising tension. We need to de-escalate the rising tension. All kinds of short videos are going around, threatening. Texts are going around. One ethnic group is threatening the other. One young person who never saw the Civil War is threatening war, is stoking the embers of war. And it's as if people do not know the consequences. You know how war begins. You don't know how any war ends. I mean, look at Afghanistan. Look at Somalia. God forbid. So, what can we do? What can our leaders do? Whether you like them or you don't like them, we have leaders. We have the president, we have legislators, we have state governors, we have state legislative people. We have leaders, religious leaders. We have academic leaders, leaders in institutions, and so on. So these various cadres of leaders, what can they do to de-escalate the present tension? And what can people like you who have a following on social media, celebrities, music, all the artists who pull crowds, what can all of us do urgently? And I'm not talking of next week, next month, today, tomorrow. What can we do to de-escalate this rising tension? Dike?
Thank you. I think it's very important for us to understand that law and order is the first principle of civilization.
Law and order.
Law and order. We have to be safe before we can talk about reform, before we can talk about making things better. There has to be security. And this is something that both the government and us that are asking for reform need to understand, that there is a difference between what began as a protest and what is now quickly degenerating into anarchy. Anarchy is not a continuation of the struggle.
No.
Anarchy is as against the struggle as corruption is. So that the struggle for a better society is actually walking between two extremes. On your left, you may have a hostile or slow-footed government. On your right, you have anarchist tendencies that are waiting to take advantage of any crack to overwhelm society. So you're walking a tightrope between the devil and a hard place. And it's important for us to know this, that the moment we start seeing anarchist tendencies rise, we need to put a break on the call for reform or change
and face the anarchists.
This anarchy that is coming up, because it is not your agenda.
No.
It has not come to help you. It has not come to make your cause better.
It's opportunist.
It is opportunist that has come to destroy everything. That's not what we're looking for. So it is very important that even the protesters themselves, and I include me, because I also don't, I'm very much against police brutality and
yes,
bad
of course.
But the moment I see people on the streets burning down businesses that other people have built with their sweat,
yes,
when they go into a business to loot it, the people they meet there are ordinary Nigerians
yes,
who just went to work in the morning.
And the workers there,
They
yes,
do not deserve to be killed. They do not deserve to be maimed. They do not deserve to be terrorized. They are victims of bad governance, just like
as
you.
like yourself.
And so the moment you see this happening, you swallow whatever angst you have against the government, and you without qualification, condemn that violence, because that is not what we're looking for. So it is very important now that everybody closes ranks so that we can very clearly separate the protests, separate the hunger for reform from a desire for anarchy and destruction. That separation must happen. We must not think that we are on the same side.
Yeah.
Somebody that is going to loot and kill,
we are not on their side.
Same
Oh,
side
clearly.
Asking for a better state.
Absolutely.
They are on two different sides. Mm-hmm. And those two sides must not mix. So this is very important, that a very clear statement is made from all quarters, from all segments of society, saying no to violence.
We
no
must,
to
so on the one hand, those who are reasonable segments of society must close ranks.
Yeah.
We must stretch hands across the various
all divides,
ethno-religious, geographical, stretch hand.
And say no. We cannot have this. We cannot have people being murdered in our streets in the name of reform or change. It's wrong.
It won't work.
Completely wrong. So I'm happy that many figures that were involved in the protests are coming out to condemn the violence. There's no need to add a but to it, but the government did.
Just first
of all, let us secure the environment, because if this thing burns down, we're all burning with it. There's no buts. If they meet you on the road, they cannot distinguish between me
who was protesting for good governance
from somebody who was perpetrating bad.
No.
There will be no distinction in their eyes. As long as you are in a car, as long as you look like you are well dressed, you are an oppressor. So it is very important to understand this, that when you are first of all, there's an Igbo name, Divisive. First of all, life first. Mm-hmm. Let us be alive, then we can start talking about things tomorrow. So if you see people coming to threaten your life, you don't start saying, trying to nuance the conversation. No. You first of all say no to anarchy. Then when we have stability, then we can start talking reform.
Yeah, I know we're talking something very serious. My people have a saying. They say, make Pekin live. They ask, say, whether it resembles in Papa. In those days, you have medicine men. So you take a child who is having convulsion between life and death to a medicine man. And the medicine man looks at the child and says, it looks like in Papa so. So our people say, they say, make Pekin live. You are asking whether it resembles in Papa. So we have an urgent case ahead of us. We must close ranks. We must stretch hands across the various divides, build network quickly, and say no to these anarchists.
Particularly to efforts to fragment us on grounds of ethnicity and religion, which is even more insidious.
Seriously.
A protest that began as a Pan-African, progressive, idealistic, youth-driven agenda.
Yes.
One of the insidious attacks is this fragmenting it on ethno-religious lines to stoke violence. So now you're beginning to see Igbos and Yorubas wanting to knock their head together. This is an old trick. For how long are they
going to be cheated by
swallowing this kind of nonsense? How long? Both of us are victims of poverty.
Yes.
Every time they divide us on grounds of ethnicity and religion, so we can't stand together and face our common problems.
Yes.
For how long? All this education, we have the benefit of over 60 years of history to see how these tactics have been used again and again. Are we not yet wise enough to say, I'm not falling for it?
It was very instructive. A few days ago, I was watching the protest in London, And then one young man came and was saying the solution to the problem is to divide the country and so on. There was a lady standing there and said, wait a minute, that's not why I'm here. I am here because I believe in Nigeria, and all of us who are here, we're from various parts of Nigeria, and we are fighting for good governance. Don't bring your divisive agenda.
Because what inspired the country in the protests? What inspired the whole world about the protests?
It was the unity.
People that came from different walks of life came together to fight a socio-economic problem.
Yes.
That is what inspired us.
Yes.
It is that faith, it is that love,
yes.
It is that common humanity, demonstration of a shared humanity. That is what always inspires. These references to sectional interest, they never inspire. They only bring out the worst in us, the beast in us.
And I think, I mean, in recent, within the last 24 hours, I have seen statements by some organizations. And I want to say, I mean, what word do you have for leaders of, whether it's leaders of religious organizations or leaders of linguistic groups that make careless statements or releases or press statement at this time?
I will advise everybody to use your tongue to count your teeth.
Use your tongue to count your teeth.
In this season that we're in, these forces that you are inciting, they will consume you too. Do not be deceived. They will consume you too. Anarchy does not look at people's faces.
Well, you have a poem. You have a poem, Dike, that is called "The Revolution Has No Tribe." Revolution has no tribe. And I just read a section of that poem. You said, "Do you know that our enemies have no face? They are indigents of no state. They come from no place. And if this boat capsizes, every one of us will go under. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer." You said, "Do not say I am an Iroko when the forest is burning. Do not say I am Obeche when the forest is burning. Our differences will not prevent us from perishing together. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer." I mean, you have said it all here.
It's the truth. You know, these people that want to use this as an opportunity to, maybe you've had grievances against the government for a long time, and you suddenly see this as an opportunity to start throwing careless punches at the government. Be careful. You don't throw stones in a glass house. Do you understand? If you are trying to, reform is like performing surgery on somebody. Somebody is in a theater. You don't perform surgery with a hacksaw. If you're just trying to treat or, severe one, you don't just use a hammer. We have to approach this thing with a great deal of sophistication and care, because in Nigeria, a lot of good is mixed up with a lot of bad. So you need somebody with patience and with soft hands to carefully separate the good from the bad, and then you can tackle the bad. But if you lump everything together and face it all with a sledgehammer, then you're going to destroy a lot of things that do not deserve to be destroyed. A lot of people that have lost their lives on the streets, they were not even protesting. They were just trying to
somewhere it's tribullets.
Minding their own business. These are the people that have been consumed by disaster. So I will never lend my voice to inciting violence that may consume an innocent person.
Yes.
That blood will not be on my conscience. I always tell people that, listen, even if Nigeria is dying, even if Nigeria is a lost cause, imagine if somebody came today and told you that your father has cancer and he's going to die in 6 months. Do you then barge into your father's bedroom and say, well, you are going to die anyway, just die today, and start strangling your father? Even if your father was dying,
you will still do whatever you can do.
You speak to him with words of kindness. You tell him that it will be okay. That is what a good person does. So even if Nigeria is a dying entity, I am a child of this nation. I was born by this nation. I was born in this nation. And there is no way I can watch my country dying and I'll be rejoicing over it and hastening our demise.
By the way,
it is not possible.
By the way, your father is Igbo, but you were born where?
I was born in Lagos.
You were born in Lagos and you schooled in Abuja here?
I did my primary, secondary school in Lagos. Did my university in Abuja. Did my law school in Abani. I did sports, went to Maiduguri for sports, went to Kaduna for sports. My best friend is
by all counts, you are a full-blooded Nigerian.
I am a Nigerian.
And this is your home. This is your country. You have a stake, all the full stake here. So what is anybody going to come and say?
There is no way that I can midwife the destruction of my nation. It is not possible. If it will happen, it will be that it happened in spite of my efforts, not because of my efforts. So if I see Nigeria being in danger of being torn apart, my first responsibility is to say, let there be peace.
Yes.
Let there be peace first. When we sit down, we can always find a way forward.
Yes.
So I have no support, no words of support or encouragement.
What words do you have for those whose primary responsibility it is to secure lives and property? Those in government, whether it is the judiciary or legislature or executive, particularly executive. What words do you have for, at every level, local government chairmen and councillors, state governors and houses of assembly and commissioners, federal ministers and legislators in the federal parliament, the president? What words do you have for them?
I want them to know without qualification that it is their incompetence that has brought us here.
It is their incompetence
that has brought us here.
Unfortunately.
Because 70 to 80% of the root factors driving unrest in Nigeria is poverty, lack of economic opportunities, no decent housing. People are living like animals. They can't eat. They don't have jobs. There is no water to bath. People are defecating in the streets. When you put people in, make them live like animals, they behave like animals.
Wasn't it such a shame what we saw on TV? People scrambling for food from warehouses and
going through canals, going through gutters, wading through gutters,
falling down, carrying bags of
10 kilograms of rice. That tells you the level of hunger and poverty in the land. And this is squarely at the doorstep of the government. They need to stop telling us what efforts they are making. You don't judge. If somebody is working for you, you don't judge by the input, you judge by the output. We want security. We don't want committees set up to look into security. We want light. We don't want another policy, regulation, or announcement telling us how we'll have light in 20 years. So these are the root causes of the agitation on the street. Let nobody be deceived.
Be deceived about it.
These are the medium to long-term solutions. But immediately, the government must first of all show empathy to the protest. Because this will go a long way to separating protesters from anarchists.
Yes.
Let protesters not go over to the side of anarchists.
Protesters will come down when words of empathy
are spoken to them. You are trying to get the protesters on your side so you can isolate the truly violent elements in society. So you tell them that, listen, I understand what you're saying. I apologize for the lives that have been lost. This is something that should have come from the number one citizen, from the president.
3 weeks ago.
The moment the first Bararam happened, the president should have spoken in this. Because the issue, the immediate cause was police brutality. Which Nigerian today has not been affected by police brutality? Imagine it. Your son, second year in university, just because he's wearing
dreadlock or whatever.
Or carrying some kind of phone, murdered in the streets. What I mean, as a father, don't you feel it? So immediately there should have been a very sincere expression of empathy. And I was very sad to see many government officials talking in a very,
self-righteous, presumptuous manner.
I couldn't believe it. Ministers of the Federal Republic.
Who have children, by the way.
Who have children. Saying, these young people, we're a bit impressed with how they are dancing in the streets. That's not the point. These people are demonstrating against the murder, the cold-blooded murder of young Nigerians, the future of Nigerians, at the hands of state security officers. It's not something you smile about. It is something you show immediate empathy. Now, if that had been done, we will not be here in the first place. Now, that should be immediately done. The president's speech was completely inadequate. I can see that efforts are being made to redress that now, which is good. But there should be, the airways should be saturated with demonstrations, language of empathy from the state. I've seen some videos of some military officers on the street speaking in the correct language, showing emotional intelligence. Because like I said, this helps to bring the reformers to your side. The people who are angry, but they don't want to destroy the country, they want to make it better.
Yes.
It helps to bring them on your side, to separate away
from the anarchists
that are anarchists. Then you have to address some of the key points. What happened in Lekki?
Yes.
You cannot sweep that
You
thing under the
cannot,
carpet.
absolutely not.
We must face it squarely. What happened at Lekki toll gate? Who switched off the lights? Who fired the guns? Who died or did not die? Who was wounded or was not wounded? We must have very clear responses to
and it shouldn't take 1 month to get all that.
It should not take a month. It shouldn't even take a week. It can be sorted out today.
Yes.
Do you understand? So the government must show that level of empathy to those that have been lost, to addressing the core demands of the protesters. Like you said earlier, there should be daily briefings telling us every day what you are doing in response to these demands, what you are doing. I think the Lagos State governor has made some effort, in this regard. Everybody should be doing that. The president, the ministers, the senator, the House of Reps, all of you should come. This is when you earn your salary.
Yes.
This is the time you earn your salary as a public official. Everybody is quiet now. When this whole thing has calmed down, they'll jump out and start trying to create all kinds of narratives. But this is the time you're supposed to earn your stripes as an elected official. You were elected for a time like this.
Like I said, first thing I did this morning, this was 5:30 a.m. I sent a text to my friends who are in government at every level. I said, you know what? We are in deep trouble. My suggestion, one, tell all legislators at every level to go to their constituency to speak to their people, to calm them down. They have no business sitting down in Abuja.
No.
Two, tell the governors to be briefing their people every day. It is a daily thing, sometimes twice a day, depending on the environment. And three, speak to religious leaders. Speak to sociocultural group leaders so that they can help their people, help calm down the rising tension. And then what word do you have for young celebrities who are having a lot of following, by the way?
I think that we should all, like I said at the beginning, please, let us not be mistaken that anarchism is
going to benefit
a tool
anyone
of the struggle. It is not a tool of the struggle. It is as counter-revolutionary as corruption and ineptitude. The struggle is revolutionary. Anarchism is counter-revolutionary. The revolution must be led by people that are clear-sighted and cool-headed.
Have a goal in view.
You have a goal. It's not enough to have fire in your chest. You must also have ice in your head. You must know when to bite your tongue. You must know the battle. You must choose your battle. It's not every battle you must fight and win. Do you understand? You're fighting a war. Some battles can be lost, but the important thing is the war. What's the overall strategy? So you need very level-headed people leading these movements at this time. And so I like to tell anybody that has influence to consider the fact that Nigeria has potential and must be saved. Now, like I said, the first rule of civilized order is law and order.
Is law and order.
We must have safety. We must have life first before we can do anything else.
Dike,
so let us band together to stand against anarchism.
And save our country. Do you have any of your poems, any verse we can end with? We have just 1 more minute to end with.
I think you quoted the
Maybe
the
you should read. You should read.
The perfect one.
You should read it.
Do you not know that I'll just take those last 2 verses so I don't or I can say it's a short poem. Do you not know that poverty is not an Ijaw man? He will not spare the rest of us and afflict only the Asian. He will step across the river and come across the border. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do you not know that corruption is not from Nekede? He will not hear that Ife has no dealings with Mother Keke. He will wake up all of our children at night with hunger. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do you not know that HIV/AIDS is not Kanuri? He will not spare the rest of us and kill only the Fulani. He will set the land ablaze from the Delta to the Sahara. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do you not know that our enemies have no face? They are indigents of no state. They come from no place. And if this boat capsizes, every one of us will go under. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do not say, I am the Iroko, when the forest is burning. Do not say, I am the Obeche, when the forest is burning. Our differences will not stop us from perishing together. So when the drums sound, I beg,
everybody answer. On this note, we'll bring this segment of our program to an end. I have been speaking to Dike Chukwumerije, a poet, a performer of the spoken word, and he has ended this session performing that poem very beautifully. When the drums sound, make una answer. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.